Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Kanavos, your host, and I've got a great guest for you tonight. Her name is Holley Kelley, and she's here to talk about getting your affairs in order. You know, one of the things we tend to do is procrastinate on making sure our will is ready, making sure our life is packed up and ready to go gracefully into the next level. So it's something that's difficult to talk about. That's why I'm being so careful with my choice of words. But Holley is going to breeze us through that tonight. And when you're done with the show, you're going to go, oh my gosh, there's nothing to be afraid of. So welcome to the show, Holley Kelley.
Oh, thank you so much, Kat. I am so excited to be here with you.
So, Holley, you are a gerontologist. Did I say that right?
Gerontologist.
Okay. Yes. Tell us what that is. What does that mean?
Well, a gerontologist is somebody that studies aging and problems of the aged. It can be social, cultural, psychological. It is so many different areas and facets of aging. It's such a broad spectrum, and you will see people studying just in so many different areas that gerontology is often misunderstood because people come to it from so many different areas and do so much work in gerontology from just so many different areas that they practice. So in my particular area, I do consulting and working in journalism and writing and things like that.
So you have written a book. You're an author. Tell us a little bit about the book, including the title, because it's an interesting title.
So the book is Sunrises and Sunsets, which wouldn't tell you anything about the book. So the rest of the subtitle is Final Affairs Forged with Flair, Finesse, and Functionality. So there you have what the book is actually about. So the Sunrises and Sunsets was meant to depict life and death, sunrises being, of course, our birth, and sunsets being our end of our days. And then, of course, the final affairs forged with flair, finesse, and functionality was to tell readers what they were going to participate in the journey of this book. And so this book is about the journey of you, but it is also about handling your important affairs and getting everything done. And the functionality part is a little play on words. It's a capital F-U-N, and it's fun. And so you know this because you've actually had your hands on the book. So it's a surprise. The book is a surprise, much like life is a surprise. So people think a book on planning my end of days has to be just awful. And they get the book and they're like, oh, really? Okay, I can do this. So
and your book is also a guide, is it not?
It is a guide, yes. It is a workbook. It's a guidebook. It's a life book. And it ends up being actually, when you're done with it, a written legacy that is kind of a living heirloom of you. And so you actually pass this on to your family, but it's also something that allows your family to take this book, and all of your wishes are in this book, but also it's something that they hold on to, and it holds meaning for them. So the book becomes very, very special, but it's incredibly useful when they're facing something very challenging, that being someone's passing. So the book is really something that helps them and tells them every single thing that you want done and where everything is. So the book is many things.
It's amazing, Holley, because we spend so much time planning for the birth of a child or a grandchild, and we're so into the details. And yet when it comes to passing over into the rebirth of life after death, it's like we all run away from it, screaming out of the room. We don't want to deal with it, but it's as natural as birth. It's just rebirth back into where we were before we were born on the earth plane. So what prompted you to write this book? Where did you get the idea for this book, because this isn't something people sit down and go, you know what, I think I'm going to write a book about what I need to have in order before I die. Where did this come from?
Well, Kat, that is such a good question. And I was in the midst of my gerontological studies, and I actually started a research paper on advanced directives. And I recognized that less than 30% of people are planning for what 100% of us are going to face. All living things are going to eventually pass and no longer be present on our mortal existence as we know it. And I was like, oh my goodness, what is going on? Why are people failing to do this and not prepared? And then I decided that being prepared is well beyond just a set of planning documents. There's so much more. If my mom wasn't here anymore, what would I want? I would want so much more from her. So I took it further and further and further. And then it became what it is today.
So you talk about advanced directives. Can you explain that to the audience? They may not understand.
So advanced directives is a set of legal planning documents that tells your survivors and your medical team, and it's just documents that let people know what your wishes are. Would you, if you were no longer able to make your wishes known, would you want life-sustaining treatments? Would you want hydration and food? Would you want to be resuscitated? It is documents that state your wishes clearly. And so this is something that is what people would enact, and they would make their wishes known. And so this is, a lot of people are, obviously not doing this, less than 30%. And so that's where the work started. And then I recognized, oh my goodness, people aren't doing wills, or if people do a will, they think this is enough. And so I realized that planning involves so much more. That's the legal, there's the technical, there's the emotional, there's the spiritual, there's the personal. And there is who wants to be faced with writing somebody's obituary. This is something that we should do and have that joy, and remove that burden from our loved ones. And there's just so much else that we can do to pass on love, remove burden, and to promote healing from the other side. So the work grew and grew to something that was very life-elevating and soul-soothing and healing.
Do you have a section in your book, Holley, that helps people write their own obituary?
Yes. There is a section where they plan their own funeral. They write their own obituary. They, of course, fill out their family tree. They log all of their archives and family heirlooms, share family medical history, of course, their wills, advanced directives, and things like that. And I think one of the greatest sections in the book is something that I do as a parent, is writing letters to loved ones. And so this is something where the healing is very therapeutic for the composer of these letters, but the healing will continue much later, in later years. This is something where you write this letter and a grandchild yet to be born will be moved by this letter long after your departure. This is beautiful, that you will be able to send your love from the other side years from now. And so there's just so many ways that we can continue our legacy and share our love.
Wow, that is amazing. I can definitely see how, if someone watching this show right now is going, I couldn't do that. Why would I do that? Why would I want to do that? Put myself through writing my own obituary. But if you stop and think about it, imagine if you were able to take that burden off your loved ones. What if you were able to write letters, or even have video, if you wanted to, video links that you could leave with your grandchildren, So they get to know you, because otherwise they may not actually be able to know you. So I love the idea of this book. And you talk about being a fellow in, and I'm going to try and say this, thanatology. Tell us
Yes.
about that. What is thanatology?
Okay, so a fellow in thanatology was actually, there's less than 200 of these in the United States. So this is somebody that is an expert in the area of death, dying, and bereavement. So you have certain credentials and have passed a test and have met the criteria to meet this designation. It's done through the Association of Death Education and Counseling. So this is somebody that continues to work in this area and to write and to promote studies and service in the field of death, dying, and bereavement. And so obviously in the work that I do in gerontology, a lot of the focus and emphasis in my career is end-of-life preparedness. And so helping people prepare for end of life, but that's not to be confused with, I say it's planning for the end while inspiring your new beginning. And that's really, really important, because I tell people that there's something magical that happens when you face this. And that is that you have this new zest for living. There's something that happens in the denial. And that is that it's been holding something over you. And in that, failure to face it, it's kind of had power over you. And when you face it, you have somehow overcome that, and you're living life with total abandon on the other side. I mean, when you face your fears about death and dying, and when you start planning your funeral and you write that obituary and you say, oh my goodness, I'm not scared anymore. Because, I ask people when we're starting out in the book, I say, okay, are you ready to die? And, I acknowledge every single person absolutely answers that with a resounding no. And at the very end of the book, I say, okay, are you ready to die? I didn't ask if you wanted to die. I asked you, are you ready? As in prepared. And now you are. And there's a big difference, because in anything in life, if we're prepared, we're good to go. There's a certain piece, as in being prepared. You prepare for your shows, you prepare for a dinner when you're having guests over. In everything in life, we prepare. And as long as we're prepared, we have this certain amazing piece that goes along with that. And so the same thing with this, we feel really good if we're prepared and we've handled all the details. It doesn't hold power over us anymore. And we feel good.
Yeah, we prepare for hurricanes. We prepare for tornadoes. This is the same thing. If you're prepared, it's not a disaster anymore. You take the fear out of it. You take the disaster out of it. Just as you have disaster preparedness, you have end-of-life preparedness. And you can start that when you're a teenager. Yes, some of your choices may change between now and then. But, it's something that we cannot, no matter what we do, we can't avoid it. So face it, get on with it, and do it right. Do it the way you want to do it. Have it be your choice, not somebody else's choice. Even if you're thinking, well, I'm going to be gone, it won't matter. It will to the people left behind. And that's probably one of the most important points. So before we're down to like our last 4 minutes. So tell our audience how they can get in touch with you and get your book.
Oh, thank you so much. Find me at the LatterLife Planning Institute, and that is LATTER, lifeplanninginstitute.com. And the book has its own website, and that is sunrisesandsunsetsbook.com. And it does seem that everybody loves to shop on Amazon, and the book is actually on sale, Amazon Prime right now. And the book it was an Amazon #1 new release. It's won several awards. So it is a really good gift to give somebody the gift of planning. If you're brave enough to give somebody an end-of-life planning book, it's actually a very loving gift to be able to give somebody something like that, because people that have given that gift, the people have definitely actually been very grateful.
And you also have a radio show, don't you?
I do. Yes, Aging Gratefully, and it's every Friday. It airs globally, and you can catch me at 11 a.m. Pacific time, and you can find the show details also on my website under the Aging Gratefully show link there at the LatterLife Planning Institute.com.
Oh, that is so cool. So we have about 1 minute left, Holley. If you had one thought you would want to leave our audience with concerning planning for their end of life, what would it be?
I would say that be brave and make sure that you do the planning, simply because when you don't, you leave that burden to others, and you love everybody in your life and love them enough to not put that burden on them, because they end up wondering if they handled it to your wishes. And sometimes they turn that into guilt. And so it's a wonderful gift to be able to give them the beautiful gift of planning and to love them that way. So I would say plan yourself, and nobody ever complains that somebody did all the planning. They always are grateful.
And how would they get started on this? I can just feel our audience going, I don't even know where to start to do this.
There's so many tools, and if they didn't use my book, there is just so many different tools available online. And so certainly they would start with just advanced care planning documents and go from there. That would be the first thing to begin the process, and they would just search that and get started on their journey.
Well, I know that this is a very powerful conversation, because while you were talking, Siri on my phone all by itself turned itself on when I said, where would people go to find out how to start? And the phone said, well, let's look here and see what we can find. So I thought that was awesome, because I wasn't touching anything. It's pushed way up there, and it's actually turned off so that it won't go off like the other house phone does. Well, I want to thank you so much, Holley Kelley, for being on the show with us tonight and helping us go through something that's so important in our life, and something that we don't want to leave to others, that we do want to be in charge of. And I encourage our audience to watch your radio show and get your book, and I hope you'll come back on the show again and let us know anything else new that you're doing concerning this.
Oh, thank you, Kat. Always a pleasure to do anything. We have a great time together. So thank you so much for the invitation.
Thank you. Good night, everybody. We'll see you next Monday night, 5 Pacific time, 8 Eastern Standard Time. And our next show is going to be with author Peter Kanavos, who's going to be talking about his latest book award. So, Holley, quickly, before you go, what was one of the book awards you got?
I got the International Book Award as a finalist, and I got the National Indie Excellence Book Award as a finalist as well.
Oh, wonderful. Those are great awards. Well, thank you again for being on the show. Good night, everybody. Until next week, this is Kat Kanavos on the Kat Kanavos Show saying, be safe and have a great Thanksgiving.
You've been watching the Kat Kanavos Show here on New Earth International.